Hi there, it's Tammy here. And in this short video, I'm going to talk about how to avoid falling prey to the pregnancy and postnatal clickbait traps. So if you're pregnant and struggling with things like information overload, or you're feeling overwhelmed with the amount of misinformation or contradictory information that there is out there in the pregnancy exercise or pregnancy health and well-being space, then this video is absolutely for you. So 100% keep watching. And honestly, in my mind, it's no wonder that you're struggling with information overload and feeling overwhelmed with the sheer volume of misinformation and contradictory information that there is out there in this space. So it's no wonder if you decided it's easy to just follow a generic trimester-based pregnancy exercise video in the hopes that it will be enough to get you through your pregnancy exercise journey. And you know what? You don't actually need to scroll very far through things like YouTube, Google, or Instagram to find pages aimed at the pregnant and postnatal market that sadly are filled with misinformation or contradictory information. Then, of course, we can't forget the well-intentioned but often misinformed information that our loving friends and family feel compelled to impart to you. And of course, this is coming from a good space, but sadly, a lot of the time, it's not ideal information. And I'm sorry to say, but the free online pregnancy exercise videos are an area that I typically tend to avoid like the plague. Otherwise, I end up ranting like a lunatic at the computer over the incredibly uneducated exercises inexperienced coaches are suggesting that pregnant women do. Or you know what, then you have the kind of super generic one-size-fits-all workouts that aren't actually going to do anything to create long-term strength or support a woman's pregnancy and birth journey. And I haven't even mentioned some of the generic pregnancy or the online kind of generic pregnancy program with that online coaches who don't even specialize in this area are sending out. Now, obviously, not all programs are created equal, but I'll actually, and this is where it's coming from, because I'll never forget a client coming to me and showing me her pregnancy program that was given to her by a reasonably well-known online coach. She wasn't a specialist, of course, but it contained lying hamstring curls, as in lying on your stomach. Now, any coach worth a grain of salt would know that you can't put a pregnant woman on her stomach. Yet here in this pregnant woman's program was a lying leg curl. Now, luckily for her, she ended up in my client base after that, thankfully, because who wants to do a lying leg curl when you're pregnant? Now, part of the problem is there's just so much information available out there that it's actually hard to decipher between a credible source and someone that's just basing their content around their personal opinion, or shall we say narrative, as opposed to kind of science. And then, of course, you have the outright contradictory information that leaves me wondering to myself, are they literally just creating controversial content for the sake of clickbait? Are they using the pregnant population as clickbait? And sadly, these are the exact same spaces that some pregnant women turn to for advice, right? And that's totally not your fault, because just because you're pregnant doesn't magically make you able to decipher which information is accurate and coming from a trusted source and which is not. And I talk about this a lot further when I discuss something called the Gelman amnesia effect and how it can be applied to pregnancy. But I'm not going to be going into that here in this particular video. Now, sadly, it's a jungle out there, and there are pages that have tens of thousands of followers posting content that absolutely goes against, or as they say, challenges long-standing and scientifically proven guidelines. And a perfect example of this is a post that I came across discussing lying on your back while training and twisting, right? Both during exercise. Now, both things tend to be things that I avoid when training the pregnant population. And as an experienced coach, for me, these minor adjustments give way to thinking outside of the box and putting more thought into how I can program around these guidelines while still hitting the same muscle group in a similar way. For me, this is the fun, creative part of pregnancy program design. And when being entrusted to safely transition a client through their pregnancy journey, I will always tend to err on the side of caution, because I just see it as a cost versus benefit approach, right? What's the potential cost of doing an exercise or a series of exercises that goes against the guidelines versus the benefit of doing that particular exercise? Especially because there's seemingly endless amounts of exercise variations, or what one of my mentors always used to refer to as there's more than one way to skin a cat. So, is it really necessary to place a pregnant client in a position just for the sake of challenging long-standing guidelines, especially when there's so much scientific evidence to prove its place there in the first place, right? And while I can easily navigate this landscape and choose what information I want to research further and what I just completely disregard, for a general population pregnant woman, the amount of contradictory health and fitness information that there is out there in the pregnancy and postnatal space is overwhelming. And it tends to lead them down one of the following paths, right? The first path is being completely overwhelmed and stopping exercise altogether and just walking. The second path is continuing exercising but doing what feels right, following the misinformation and potentially causing some kind of damage or problems. That's definitely not great. Or what about doing generic one-size-fits-all workouts that you find online? Right? Now, the last path is seeking the help of a qualified, experienced specialist to help guide you through the process. That gets double thumbs up from me. Now, while there's nothing wrong with just walking, I believe that there's certainly better options that can build strength and help prepare you mentally, emotionally, and physically for the pressures of pregnancy, birth, and motherhood beyond. And continuing to exercise but doing what feels right is not a terrible option. At least you're doing something, right? But what happens when you come up against some type of common pregnancy-related pain or problem, like things like pubic symphysis pain or back pain? What then? What do you do then? Do you stop training? Do you then start questioning yourself with things like, if I'd been training differently or more effectively, could I have avoided this pain or problem altogether? And then comes the, now what do I do? And this is usually the point that you either stop training altogether or stop exercising altogether, or you then go seek the help of a specialist or the advice of a specialist. And of course, depending on where you are in your pregnancy, sometimes you can fall in the too little too late category. Now, of course, not all misinformation is going to cause damage or problems. However, following it certainly does increase your chances. And I have to tell you, one of the most common things postnatal clients who come to me with, when they come to me, with some type of pregnancy or birth related trauma, is, I wish I'd known that before. And in my memory, there is no greater example of this than a trainer I knew who, during her first pregnancy, continued training as per usual and just doing what feels okay. Now, this trainer worked for a really well-known group training franchise that did a lot of high-intensity interval training. So this trainer was continuing to do these workouts, right, which included things like box jumps and burpees, which just the thought of those make me absolutely cringe, right? Especially for pregnancy. The result left her with a 10-finger abdominal separation, chronic back pain, and years of physiotherapy, not to mention the psychological effects of having the aesthetic aspect of her body affected to this extent, especially when you work in such an aesthetic industry as the fitness industry in the first place, right? Now, I'm not telling you this to scare you, not at all. And this is obviously at the very extreme end of the scale. But there's something to be said about working with a specialist, which brings me back to the lying on your back while training and twisting post. So this particular post said, and I quote, "Stop letting outdated guidelines place you in a box that disempowers you. It's time to set yourself free," and continued to say, "Let's take a look at a couple of these guidelines which no longer serve us and slash the disempowering narratives. Lying on our backs and twisting are safe for the majority of women. We just have to know what to listen for and how to best move through them. When lying in a supine position, be aware of any signals your body might send you to communicate that it's time to roll over. Things like dizziness, a feeling of being nauseous, a feeling of feeling lightheaded. These can all indicate that you're placing pressure on your vena cava and it's time to change positions, so on and so on and so forth, right? Now, that sounds plausible enough, right? Doesn't it? I mean, I'm pretty sure it does, but it doesn't. That is actually incorrect, because the research shows that 90% of women lying in a supine position during pregnancy experience some form of inferior vena cava syndrome. Just not all of them display symptoms. And this is a key point here. So let me just repeat that. The statistics show that 90% of women lying in the supine position during pregnancy experience some form of inferior vena cava syndrome, just not all of them display symptoms. So when you're lying on your back training, you may or may not experience these symptoms, but just because you're not feeling them doesn't mean it's not happening internally. Now, this isn't a piece about inferior cava syndrome. The deep dive into that is in the pregnancy process program, of course, but it certainly highlights my point about the level of contradictory information that there is out there. And now you at least know why err on the side of caution and don't place clients on their back past 16 weeks. So if this is you, I wouldn't be training on your back. And sadly, I'm not finished making my point with this particular post, because they also mentioned twisting. And I quote, "When it comes to twisting, I remind women that we twist from a functional space every day. And to think twisting should be off the table during exercise or yoga is simply nonsense." Now, I can absolutely feel a rant coming on here. Look, I've even changed position, because research has found the natural role of our core is actually to resist movement, not create it. So this means that you want to work in the anti-space. So that's anti-rotation, anti-lateral flexion, anti-extension, right? And like anti-lateral. So this means you want to work in the anti-space. So anti-rotation, anti-lateral flexion, anti-flexion, and anti-extension. And as the name implies, anti-rotational movement focuses on preventing motion at the hips and spine while allowing the limbs to move. And to continue down this rabbit hole, the muscles in the abdominals responsible for rotation are your obliques, which actually work contralaterally, meaning so as one side contracts, the other side relaxes. And without going into an anatomy lesson here, what this means in a pregnancy sense is as you twist, one side of your oblique relaxes while the other side contracts, right? Which places pressure on the linea alba and can exacerbate abdominal separation. One of the main things that we're trying to minimize while training during pregnancy. See, I told you there was a rant coming on. Now, another thing to note about the obliques, which are responsible for twisting, is over the years, more clients than not that I've worked with actually have overactive obliques, yet weak deep core and lower abdominal muscles, meaning that they rely on their obliques to do the job that their deep core and lower abdominal muscles should be doing. And it's this same faulty muscle activation pattern that hinders repair in the postnatal journey. And funnily enough, the latest post on this particular page is talking about how overactive obliques can sabotage the postpartum healing process. Sorry. Is it just me, or does that seem a little contradictory to you, right? Wouldn't it be more beneficial to teach people how to correctly activate their deep core muscles and lower abdominals whilst training and strengthening their core in anti-movement patterns so their bodies don't actually allow excessive twisting, excessive lateral flexion, or extension when they are naturally moving, as opposed to telling them to twist from a functional space, right? What does that even mean? Do you know what that means? I don't. And just so we're clear, one of the things your core is designed to do is protect your spine. It's when you don't have the correct strength and mobility through your abdominals and core and your body allows excessive twisting, flexing, or extending, that you will run into problems. Our bodies, or more specifically, our spines, aren't designed to twist, flex, and extend past certain ranges. And the thing about pregnancy is the abdominal and core muscles are stretched and weakened. Plus you have the magic hormone relaxin that is relaxing your joints and ligaments. All of this combined allows more range of motion than you'd normally have, which is actually placing you in more of a position to hurt yourself. This and the pressure it puts on the linea alba are a huge part why pregnant women are discouraged from twisting. But to communicate all this to the depth that it genuinely requires takes more than an Instagram post or a reel allows. So it's always easier to write cute pieces that sound like you're giving women permission to listen to their bodies. However, they're also filled with information. It's much easier to do that than create a space to genuinely inform and educate from. And please remember, I'm only using these posts and this page as a motif, as an example of the information that pregnant women need to try and navigate during a time that they are already overwhelmed. But funnily enough, this page I'm using, even as a motif, has proven my exact point above in another clickbaity nutrition post which challenges long-held nutritional guidelines. So this particular post was talking about 5 foods you don't actually need to avoid while pregnant, where they actually encourage women to eat runny egg yolks as long as they're organic, organic pasture-fed chickens. Deli meats, eat deli meats so long as they're from organic grass-fed animals. Raw cheese, knock yourself out as long as it's organic. And fish, knock yourself out. Eat whatever you want as long as it's wild caught. Now, all of this advice, of course, goes against the pregnancy guidelines, right? And if you look at the comments, which were interesting to say the least on this page, they actually admitted, and they later took down, what they admitted was that there's only so much education that you can do on an Instagram platform or post, right? And I'm not even going to entertain breaking down the claims that you can eat runny egg yolks, deli meats, and raw cheese, and all the fish in this post. But of course, you'll find all of this in the pregnancy process program. But just to draw a line in the sand here, the reason why the current nutritional guidelines say that you can't eat runny egg yolks, deli meat, and raw dairy products is because of food-borne bacteria, which is harmful to both you and the baby. And fish, well, there's unhealthy levels of mercury in certain types of fish, regardless of how they're caught. But what this does prove is just how much contradictory information or misinformation there is out there. I mean, these examples are from one single Instagram post, right? One single page, sorry. And it's no wonder that pregnant women find pregnancy so overwhelming. I mean, it's exhausting just trying to make sense of all the information that there is out there, let alone figure out what information can be trusted to follow. So as a pregnant woman, how can you sort the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, right? How do we decipher which source that we can trust? Now, I think one of the most important things that you can do is not base your idea of level of experience on the amount of followers that a page has, right? More followers does not mean more experience. From a coaching perspective, you need to look for someone who has proven specialist experience in the industry, someone who has gained experience coaching pregnant women face-to-face for a number of years. And of course, when it comes to experience, the length of that experience is also a key here, right? There is a huge difference between 1 to 3 years experience and 10 plus. I'm just saying that. It's just true. Now, with so much online coaching available these days, it's sadly becoming common for online coaches, to skip the really important step of hands-on experience. And it's this hands-on experience, which is where you gain all of your experience. Of course, everyone has to start somewhere, but 1 to 3 years is barely cutting your teeth on the general population or training the general population. Once you start specializing, the more pregnant and postnatal women you coach, the more exposure that you get to the various health conditions that can manifest during pregnancy, which in turn enables you to be a more effective coach. And then of course the virtuous cycle continues, right? And of course, education is also important. Like, how qualified in coaching the pregnant and postnatal population are these particular coaches? Have they done one course once to tick the box to get the certification, or do they do ongoing education around this specialist area? It's a really good question to ask. Now, industry partners is another really good one, because as the saying goes, you are a product of those that you surround yourself with. So you want to ensure that the specialist that you're working with has ongoing partnerships with other specialists, but especially specialist women's health physios. And trust me, these take time to develop. Now, obviously, online is going to be slightly different to face-to-face, but to be honest, I don't believe a coach actually has the right to go into the online pregnancy and postnatal space without first training or without training this population first in the face-to-face space. So regardless of whether you're training in person or online, the coach that you're choosing should have established relationships and partnerships with specialist women's health physios and other specialists. And if you're looking for a face-to-face coach during pregnancy, I definitely think that contacting a local women's health physio and asking for a recommendation is actually a pretty good idea. And you also can't go past a referral. Has someone you know used this person before? Do they offer some type of freemium model, which allows you to familiarize yourself with their content, their methods, their training styles, and them as a person? And more importantly, do you resonate with them and trust what they are saying? Is there some type of assessment or pre-exercise questionnaire involved when becoming a client, irrespective of whether this is face-to-face or online? Or are they going with the bare minimum of clearance from your doctor to exercise? I think that's the bare minimum, but I'll talk about that another time. And another question to ask is, are your programs designed specifically for you? And how much ongoing specialist support comes along with those programs? Now, if you think this list is exhaustive, remember this is the person that you're entrusting to help you through your maternal metamorphosis. You need to feel safe in the knowledge that they're the right person for you and your baby. And I personally believe that we owe it to our pregnant population to provide a space where they feel safe, where they feel safe that the information that they're receiving is from a trusted source that has your best interest at heart. A place that's been designed to help ease information overload as opposed to using them as clickbait to grow your following. And this is why I created the Pregnancy Process Program and my complimentary but private community. Head to the link in my bio or the video description if you'd like to apply to join that community. So that's it from me today. I hope this video helped. I know it was a bit of a rant, but hopefully I'll be a bit calmer when I see you in the next one.